This past month has been completely unexplainable. The way it feels, the way my life has been, it's like I finally transcended my own boundaries in my spiritual life. It's like the last 10 or 12 years of me just grinding with personal development, with all of the things that I've forced myself into, the discipline, the ice baths, the getting up at 5 a.m., the enforced, asceticism, becoming a monk. It's like these phases of being a monk and being hedonistic, back and forth, back and forth. But the monk always dragged me out of it, and it always got me back on the right path. And then I felt great. I did feel great. I felt amazing. But one thing that I'm starting to realize is that I don't necessarily know if that discipline or those routines or that structure that I tried to create in my life actually did anything for me. Would I still be here where I am right now had I not done any of that? And that's a good question, and I don't know. But the reason it feels like that is because I've hit a point where I realize none of it matters now. None of it's working in the same way that it used to. Now I just do things because I enjoy doing them. I love to meditate. I love the stillness that I get from meditating. I love lifting weights. Makes me feel strong, gives me energy. I love to write. I love to create. I love getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I love starting my own day. Don't let your alarm clock and the schedule of your job or whatever you do start your day. You start your day. You get up on your own terms. It's not about simply the act of doing it. It's about doing it consciously with intention. And do it because you want to do it, not because it's a chore. Don't make things chores. These chores just turn us into automatons, robots. That's why every time I get into this discipline era, I get fucking depressed. You ever done 75 hard? By day 40, I'm ready to blow my brains out. The first time felt good though. Do things because you like to do them. But seriously, man, once I surrendered, once I butted up against this freaking ceiling that I always butt up against, it had nothing to do with my disciplines or my routines. It had everything to do how I show up in life. How I either respond or react to situations. And one thing that I realized is that there is a time between the stimulus and the response or the reaction. And the further away that it gets, the more suffering that we endure. And the more that we can bring that down to almost nothing, the less that we have the desire to ruminate and analyze and overthink situations. See, when we're not regulated, when we're not calm and centered and grounded, and we get into situations with people, and people are going to say things and do things to test you. And we may take that personally. Like, people do it all the time, especially in, atmospheres like jobs or group gatherings, family gatherings. People say things to test you. Some people do it unconsciously, some people do it consciously, and they're trying to see where you're at. They're trying to fill you out, especially if they don't know you. Who is this person? Can I trust them? What kind of character do they have? And we can take that very, very personally. And that's what I mean is when somebody does something that triggers an emotional response or a reactivity in us, and we allow that emotion to hijack us and make us react instinctively, then that's not our real self. That's not what our calm-centered, grounded self would do. And so when that happens, we react, and then maybe hours later, we revisit it. And this could be 2 hours, 3 hours later, and that's when the cycle happens, the spiral, the downward spiral, the collapse. And so it's because we didn't say what we needed to say in the calm, grounded way at the moment and in the moment in time. We reacted, and then we allowed all this time to pass in between before we reflected on it and tried to make amends with it and shame ourselves and beat ourselves up over it because we did the wrong thing. Oh my God. And it's like this flashlight is spotlighted on you, but nobody cares. Nobody's thinking about it. They're just making mental notes like, oh, he slipped up. So like I said, when we can work on our awareness, when we can become aware of how we react and how we respond and how we get hijacked by our emotions. And once we can see it for what it is, we can cut that response time down. Because ultimately what you want to do is in that moment, respond in the most impeccable way. Be impeccable with your word. Like the book, The 4 Agreements. If you haven't read that book, you should definitely read it. Be impeccable with your word. And when you're impeccable with your word, the situation stops there. There is an action, there is a stimulus. There is a brief pause because regulated, centered, grounded people pause and understand because they know what's going on within them. And they can analyze the situation in milliseconds. And they like, oh, okay, I need to do this. Or I need to not do this. I need to not react. I need to not respond because that is something that is not worth my response. Not everything needs a response. Sometimes being quiet is the most powerful thing you can do. So all it takes is some awareness. Awareness of ourselves, awareness of others. Sometimes it's our environment. We have to see the patterns. We have to see that many people are trapped in loops and in their own programming. And it runs like clockwork, baby. And if you can really be aware, you can start to see these patterns in everybody and everything. And once you can get that bird's eye vantage, that view from above and see the way things work, you are no longer tossed around by your emotions or by the actions of others. And a lot of this has to do with a very spiritual concept of surrender. You have to surrender to what is. You have to accept that life is the way that it is. You may want it to be a certain way. You may want some people to be a certain way. You may want them to change because if they change, you will feel a lot better. But that's waiting on the external world to form itself into your utopia so that you feel better. And that's just not how things go. Everything comes from within. Our happiness is not dependent on the external world, nor is our pain. And that's a tough one. But with spiritual vigilance and awareness, we can become aware of how we are creating our own inner turmoil. We are latching on to thoughts and illusions, and we're feeding these ghosts our energy. Our brains run on glucose. They say that the 80 or 90% of the glucose that our body uses is from our brain. That's how much mental power our brain has. And so it's become very clear to me how overthinking is very detrimental to our energy production and our energy loss. The more we can get away from overthinking and turning that reaction into a response and being centered in groundness and being centered and grounded and calm, because if we're constantly anticipating something, we're not calm. We're preparing. We're bracing for impact. That's not calm or grounded or centered. You need to allow what comes to come as it is and accept it fully for what it is. And in this way, life begins to flow with much more ease. And our awareness rises, and we begin to observe more than we react. And that chasm, that void in between the stimulus and the response cuts down to almost nothing. And from there, we live moment to moment. And that's how I've been living lately, and that's how I've been feeling lately. It's this alignment, this resonance. I often feel like a rock in the ocean, and the chaos of the crashing waves keep breaking upon me, but I'm immovable. I'm sturdy, I'm strong. I am the eye of the storm with the chaos swirling around me. And it's a very immense feeling, and it's filled with love and gratitude and hope. And it's part of this feeling that I've been feeling that I cannot put into words, because it transcends one moment in time or a feeling. It is like this vibration or this feeling of being the past, the present, and the future all in one, and it's all coming together. It's coming together to form this complete circle, like everything was meant to be, and it locked in, and it's like it's supposed to be that way. Everything is the way everything happened is the way it's supposed to be. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And it's only the beginning. That's what it feels like. It's only the beginning. And this has come through nervous system regulation. This has come through awareness. This has come through looking at myself, my shadow, looking at my darkness and accepting it all, the good and the bad. That's the hardest part of personal development, is looking at that shitty part of ourselves. The moment we make the mistake and we're like, fuck, I'm still here. I'm still right here. I thought I was better than that. I thought I'd already beaten that. I'd already transcended that. Nope, still right here making the same mistake. Ooh, the twinge of that, the pain of that sometimes hurts, but it's what we have to look at, and it's what we have to notice, and we have to accept it and be like, yep, I still do that. still do that. And it's okay. And there's no need to beat yourself up or shame yourself. Shame is not, we're not meant to shame ourselves so bad. We're meant to shame ourselves when we fuck up and we endanger somebody else or we let the tribe or the group down. It's not meant for everyday little mistakes where we are trying hard, we're trying our best, but we still mess up. That's not what shame's for. We have too much of that. We need to let it all go, man. We got to let it all go. We got to release. We got to accept. We got to surrender. All right? Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for being here with me. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.